After reaching 6 figures in my own tutoring business, Lisa Study Guides, and helping my Tutor Boss clients reach 6 figures in their own tutoring businesses, this is the roadmap you need to know in order for you to reach 6 figures in your own tutoring business. Make sure you watch all the way until the very end of this video because we're going to be talking about juicier and juicier roadmap tips, including things like contracts, how much to pay yourself, and what it looks like to scale. Hey Tutor Bosses, I'm Lisa. I help tutors start and scale your tutoring businesses so you can start living your dream life sooner. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and let's get into it. To help you get to your first 6 figures in your tutoring business, you need to know that you cannot serve absolutely everyone. This is a mistake I see a lot of starting tutoring business owners make. And that's because when you first start out in business, you're desperate to get as many people sign up with you as possible. And when you have this mentality, what happens is you end up making sacrifices, saying yes to the bargain hunters who only want to pay you $10 an hour for tutoring, saying yes to customers who aren't interested in coming to you every single week for consistency, saying yes to customers who only want you for last minute ad hoc help, maybe once or twice a year, which means you don't get consistent income to actually start making your dream living. Now, what happens when you start saying yes to these type of non-ideal fit customers is that you actually start attracting more and more of these non-ideal customers. The person who's only paying you $10 an hour will say to their friends, I've got a tutor who I only pay $10 an hour, you should go to them. And so of course you're going to start getting referrals from people who expect that lower price of you. And so while in the beginning you might feel like you're getting some quick wins, what is actually happening is that it's detrimental to your long-term progress. Saying yes to your non-ideal fit will actually slow you down and make life harder for you later on, especially when you're looking to increase your prices or when you're wanting to set new expectations with your students that you want them to come back to you regularly. It's actually better for you to be charging the price you want, to be communicating the expectations you want of your clients, because this is going to force you to become a better business owner who builds up the skills in order to make this dream happen, rather than making sacrifices and just getting yeses for the sake of getting yeses. And so this leads me to my next point. To make your first tutoring 6 figures, you need to understand your ideal student persona. Now, in the beginning, you're only going to have a vague idea of what your ideal student persona is. But as you work with more and more students, you'll get to increasingly understand who you actually enjoy working with versus who you actually don't enjoy working with. And so as you work with more students, it becomes an iterative process where you improve on what you identify as your ideal student persona. So for me, in the beginning, I didn't know whether or not I wanted to tutor English, math, or science. And so English, math, and science were a part of my ideal student persona. But as I started getting more and more students in and I started working with each of these students in these different subjects, I soon realized that maths for me was a huge drag and I wasn't the best at actually tutoring that particular subject. And so what I ended up doing was I ended up filtering out both maths and science eventually, and I ended up focusing on just English because I knew, one, I found English incredibly rewarding, and two, I was actually much better at tutoring English than I was at the other subjects. So if you're somebody starting out in your tutoring business right now and you're not sure on your ideal student persona, just know that you will only know by the virtue of doing. Only by getting real life experience and working with students will you be able to continue to refine and achieve clarity in who your ideal student persona is. Hi everyone, I just wanted to quickly drop in here because now that we're talking about ideal student personas, I actually have a live masterclass that I'm newly adding in last minute for any of you who want to learn more about student ideal personas. I teach the 3 core mistakes that a lot of tutoring new business owners make, including undercharging, not finding their ideal student personas, and the mistake of just trying to get more students when they don't have the right systems in place to actually scale a successful and sustainable tutoring business. So this is a last minute masterclass I'm adding in because last week I actually had a live masterclass which went so well and so many people found value from it, but unfortunately so many people missed it. And so I thought I would, why the heck not, just add in an extra one. It's going to be this Tuesday, the 19th at 8 p.m. EDT. And so if you don't know what that time zone is, I'm going to link it down below for you so you can convert it to your own time zone. I would absolutely love to see you there. It is a killer 90-minute masterclass. Plus, I'm going to add in a live Q&A at the very end to help answer any questions you have as well. So I'd love to see you there. Speaking of iterating on your student persona, in order for you to reach your first 6 figures in your tutoring business, you need to get comfortable with the unknown. One of the biggest things that keeps tutors stuck is their fear of the unknown. And I completely understand why. When you jump into the unknown, you might actually fail. It's much safer for you to be stuck in a place where it is uncomfortable and not do anything at all than to jump into the waters and be faced with the truth. Maybe you're not as good at sales calls as you thought you would be. That people will judge you for starting a tutoring business. That you do have to face that ick you feel when you're talking about prices. But that's the irony of business. The sooner you can overcome this fact that you do need to dive into the unknown, the sooner you're actually going to grow and improve as a business owner. The sooner you jump onto those sales calls, even if the first one is a major failure, at least you've done one. And the next one you do, you'll be able to improve because you have something to be able to revise on. Regardless of what stage you are in your business, you're always going to be facing the unknown. The economy is always changing. There are emerging market trends, new competitors. And so the sooner you get comfortable with the unknown, the sooner you're going to find success. Next, don't overcomplicate your business. This is going to help you get to your first 6 figures sooner. Sometimes tutor bosses get shiny object syndrome and they think to themselves, wow, look at this software. It does all these different things to help me collect money. And so they go down this rabbit hole of comparing all these different software, which takes them hours upon hours to actually figure out. From my perspective, you're overcomplicating your business unnecessarily. When you first start off, you don't need to have all these systems and all these amazing features to be using in your business, especially only when you have one student. Instead, keep things simple. Do PayPal, do a bank transfer, or collect cash in hand if you're seeing them in person. It is completely okay for you to operate your business in a simple way. Don't think that just because you're starting a business that you need it to be perfect or you need it to be at a certain level of professionalism, because this is actually only going to slow you down. Next, don't over-engineer your business. It's actually going to slow you down from getting to your first 6 figures in your tutoring business. If you want to get your first student, you shouldn't be spending hours on end preparing lesson plans 3 months in advance when you don't even have the student to begin with. Instead, you actually need to reverse things around. Your focus should just be marketing your tutoring business so that you can get your first student on board. Only once you get that student on board do you then actually focus on creating a lesson plan. Now, the reason why this is more efficient and productive for your business is because once you actually sign on that student, you're going to be more familiar of what their pain points are, what their specific challenges are, which means you can create lesson plans for them which are customized to them. And a better customer experience always leads to more success for a business. And this leads me to my next point. Prioritizing student success is what's going to help you get to your first 6 figures sooner. Once a student signs on with you, it's not like you can just go, yep, that's it, I'm done. It's really important that you prioritize student success. Make sure that they have an incredible experience with you at your business, because if that happens, then that's going to increase the number of referrals and testimonials that's left behind for your business. What you're leveraging here when it comes to referral and testimonials is social proof. As humans, when we're unsure about something, we rely on others' judgment and others' experience to help inform us of whether or not we should go and sign up with a particular tutor. And so this is what I coach my Tutor Boss clients, the Tutor Boss referral engine system, where I show them how to leverage referrals and testimonials so that they can increase that social proof and scale their businesses sooner. A student's success can be a transformation, like their confidence going from dreading a subject to feeling really confident in it. It can also be tangible results, like going from a C to an A+. Next, to help you get to your first 6 figures in your tutoring business, use testimonials to hook in new students. When you're talking to potential prospects, people who are interested in signing up with you, a great way to encourage them to take that leap is to rely on testimonials and past transformations you've made for other students. As I mentioned before, we rely heavily on social proof. When we don't have all the information ourselves, we're going to rely on other people's experiences to help inform us whether or not we can trust you as a tutor. And And so if you find that you have a prospect who is a little bit umming and erring, that's where you can bring to light and share with them success stories from previous students you've worked with. You get bonus points if you share with them a story that's highly relevant to them and where they would love to see themselves. So for example, if you have a student who's currently failing a subject, their goal is just to be able to pass and have more confidence when it comes to that subject. If you have an equivalent story with another student who is in a similar starting position as them, then sharing that story with them will help them actually envision for themselves what it really looks like to work with you. When we give prospects examples that are relevant to them, that's really going to help them make their decision to actually sign on with you as a tutor. Next, you need to get comfortable with talking about your prices if you want to reach six figures in your tutoring business. One of the big fears a lot of my tutor boss clients come to me with is that ick factor of talking about prices. The challenging thing about prices is that the first time you talk about prices or the first time you increase your prices is always going to be the hardest. You have all these limiting beliefs when it comes to prices. You're feeling that ick, you're feeling awkward, you don't feel like you're of value equal to the number you're actually sharing with your prospects. But once you're actually able to get your first student on at your dream price point, you're gonna realize that it's actually much easier than you anticipated, and you're gonna keep increasing your prices from there on, and it's gonna feel like a game to you because it's gonna keep getting easier and easier. Practice makes perfect, of course. When it comes to prices, remember that at the end of the day, what you need to focus on is communicating your value. There are tutors out there who are charging dirt cheap $10 an hour, and there are tutors out there who are charging $500 an hour. So we know in reality that spectrum is possible, but what makes the difference between someone who's charging on this end versus someone who's charging on this end? The people on this end are much better at being able to communicate their value. Remember, when it comes to prices, we as humans assign value to a price. It's not a real thing. And as we know in this world, everything gets more and more expensive over time. So it's actually part of the process for you to increase your prices over time as well. So the more you stay stuck at this current price point or sacrificing your dream price point and negotiating lower prices just to get people on board, the more you're actually delaying yourself to getting that dream income you want for your tutoring business. When it comes to prices, all that feeling we have, it's all within us. So you can either feel the ick and the awkwardness and just sit with that, or you can learn to overcome that by doing the inner work that's required of you. Figuring out, why do you actually feel that ick? Why do you actually feel awkward about prices? Once you actually figure out, you'll be able to let it go and be confident standing by your prices when you talk to new potential customers. Next, perfectionism has no place in your tutoring business if you want to make it to six figures. If you're scared to talk about your prices because you're going to potentially lose a potential customer, and that's what's actually stopping you from even trying, then this is going to keep you stuck where you are rather than growing towards your dream goal for your tutoring business. I say this to my clients all the time. When you first start off in business, you just don't yet have that experience, the skills to say, have a really smooth sales call, to talk about your prices with confidence, to deal with potential price objections comfortably. But it's only through practice that you actually build those skills. You can't expect yourself to be perfect from the very get-go. It's all this pressure that you're actually heaping onto yourself that's actually making life harder for yourself. Now, I know a lot of us have perfection tendencies, myself included, because that's what helps to protect us. It helps us to strive to be better, to present ourselves in the best way possible so that we don't fail. But you've probably heard this 100 times from various successful entrepreneurs that the ones who are most successful are the ones who've actually failed the most. So the sooner you get comfortable with failing, the sooner you're actually going to be able to get to your dream tutoring goal. And instead of seeing it as a failure, see it always as a learning lesson. I promise you, once you shift this mentality, you're gonna reach six figures sooner. Next, figuring out your business model is what's gonna help you get to your first six figures. If you're anything like me, when I first started out in business, I did not financially project what I would be doing in a year's time. I did not financially project what my business would look like once it hit six figures. And so that's why I'm telling you now, if you you want to reach six figures in your business, you need to know and have a strategy of how you're actually going to get there. It's going to look different for different tutors, but the things you need to consider are you doing one-on-one tutoring? Are you doing group tutoring? What does your pricing strategy look like? Do you do per hour? Do you charge packages? And a lot of this boils down to how much time you have as a tutor as well. As tutors, we only have so many hours in the day to actually tutor. So you need to figure out for yourself, how much time do I have versus how much money do I want to make in that time in order for me to reach six figures. You might realize that you can actually only work 10 hours of tutoring per week, but if you're charging $100 an hour, $100 times 10 is $1,000 per week times 52 weeks is $52,000. So you're still halfway short to your goal of six figures. In this case, you may think to yourself, okay, should I consider group tutoring? Or maybe if you stick to one-on-one, potentially you could add in workshops every now and then throughout the year. Or it might mean that you actually hire tutors so that you can increase your leverage of time via those tutors. So if you're somebody who wants to build a six-figure tutoring business, don't expect yourself to just somehow willy-nilly get there. Is willy-nilly a word? What kind of word is willy-nilly? You want to be strategic and intentional so that you can get to your six figures sooner. Speaking about hiring tutors is a great way to leverage other people's time, which you don't have, so that you can get to six figures. Now, I've done a video on this breaking down whether or not you should hire tutors. So if you're somebody who's contemplating hiring tutors, then I recommend you have a watch of that video after this video. But a really good time for you to consider hiring tutors is when you're almost getting fully booked out. You're still getting leads coming into your business, which means that your demand actually outweighs your supply. And because you are only one person, there's only so many hours in the day you can actually spend tutoring. So you eventually will become the bottleneck of your business, but hiring tutors will mean that you open up the number of hours your team can possibly tutor, meaning you can onboard more students. You as one person, you're available for 10 hours a week, charging $100, making $52,000 a year, and you onboard another tutor who's also able to do 10 hours a week, making $1,000 each week, therefore $52,000 a year. Bada bing, bada boom, you've made six figures. Next, for you to get to your first six figures in your tutoring business, I highly recommend for you to have contracts. As you get more and more customers, you'll find that you will need to enforce expectations and boundaries with those customers. And so the perfect way to do that is to make sure you have a contract that both you as the company and the customer agrees to. This is incredibly important because it's going to help you overcome disagreements in terms of rescheduling or canceling sessions, tutors stealing your IP, tutors stealing your students, and so much more. Don't wait until you have a headache that could have been solved with a contract until it's too late. A contract is one of those things you'd much rather have sooner rather than later. You probably know my story that I had a tutor completely copy my tutoring business, steal my assets, steal my resources, and she's still out there doing her thing, and there's nothing I can do about it because I didn't have the right contracts in place, and this was like 5+ years ago. Now, I know that when it comes to contracts, hiring lawyers can be really expensive, which is why with my Tutor Boss clients, I give them tutoring specific contracts they can use in their own business, which I used in my business. But if you're somebody who can't afford to get a lawyer right now, at least put in something as an intermediary. So for example, I'm going to put this on screen because as you know, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not here to give advice. If I was starting my tutoring business again and I didn't have the money to afford a lawyer, I'd just jump on ChatGPT and I'd get ChatGPT to draft out a contract for me that I could look over, make edits, and actually start using that. Of course, it might not be perfect, but at least it's something I can use in my business. I also talk more about contracts in my ebook, The Biggest Mistakes I Learned Making My First Six Figures. So if you haven't downloaded it yet, then make sure you do so because I don't want you repeating the same mistakes I made, because what's the point? Then I'd much rather you do so that you can accelerate your progress to six figures. Next, how much do you pay yourself as a tutor who's on track to making your first six figures? Now, when you're in early stage in business, you're not going to have that many expenses. If you do have lots of expenses, I'd be really questioning why you're paying so much for all of these different software. When I first started out my tutoring business, my only expenses were petrol so that I could get to and from students' places. For those of you tutoring online, your equivalent might be a Zoom subscription, and the only other cost was buying resources for my students. So because I taught English, I would buy the books they were actually studying. Other than that, I would pretty much take the full cut of how much I was earning. Now you can go ahead and pay yourself everything that's left over after your expenses, but what I highly recommend, especially when you're starting out in business, is if you want to spend the money the money is best reinvesting in yourself. Spending money on yourself as an investment is going to give you the biggest returns, because when you're starting out in business, there are all these skills you still need to learn. It may be marketing skills, it may be sales skills, it may be communication skills. By reinvesting in yourself, whether it be to buy a book on that topic, to pay for a course, to pay for a coach or a mentor, that's going to help you have the greatest return of upskilling yourself. Now, I know a lot of you love Alex Hormozi, and Alex Hormozi says this himself. The skills I gain are actually for a lifetime. It's not just for the now. The marketing skills, the sales skills, the communication skills, I'll have that for every single aspect of my life for my entire life. When you increase your skill set, you increase your value as an entrepreneur, and your business becomes more successful as a result. For example, if you are one of my Tutor Boss clients and you learned the signature referral engine from me, getting higher quality testimonials for your business, those high quality testimonials will capture the attention of even more potential customers, driving more interest in your business in the long run, and therefore increasing the number of tutoring sign-up, which leads to more revenue and more success for your business. Next, this is one I don't hear many entrepreneurs talking about. If you focus on your business's foundation, scale will come, helping you get to your first 6 figures. In the modern world, we are obsessed with scaling. I am definitely a victim of this too, and I feel like I've definitely perpetuated in the past. But the mad rush to get to 6 figures without actually working on the proper bones of your business will ultimately bite you in the ass. At some point in your business, you're going to be forced to work on the foundations of your business. It can be now at the beginning, or it can be much further down the track when you're going to be facing much bigger problems as a result. Focus on a lot of what we've talked about. Figuring out your ideal student persona, getting confident with talking about your prices, making sure you implement contracts early in your business so that you don't create problems for later. Sometimes working on these things can slow you down in the short term, but it's actually going to speed you up in the long run. You have to slow down, work on your foundations so that you can speed up your growth of building your business later. If you don't and you rush into it now, you're going to have a house of cards that will keep folding and creating problems for you later on, which will force you to slow down later on. At that point, the slowdown will be even more severe because you're going to have customers complaining, you might have people on your team complaining, and if you think that the future you will have more time, let me tell you that as you reach your first 6 figures, you're actually going to get less and less time because you'll be busy doing other things, whether it be managing your tutors that you've hired or dealing with 50 customers instead of 5. Now, if you've watched all the way until the end of this video, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. I'd love for you to write down in the comment section below which one of these chapters in this video did you most resonate with. That will help me understand what I need to talk more about in the future so that I can help you be as successful of a tutor as possible. Now, if you enjoyed this video, the next video I'd recommend you watching is this one here where I talk about the common fears tutoring business owners have. We've touched on a few of them today, so I think you might find that particularly helpful if you've resonated with some of those fears and limiting beliefs. So I recommend you watching that if you want to get unstuck in your business. Otherwise, if you want to learn how to use ChatGPT as a tutor, including how to make contracts for your business, then go ahead and watch this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!